Excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to try and add a little bit more information to these videos. I don't know how accurate I am. I have not always been accurate. I have not always been the most legitimate source of information, but I'm just going to try and put as much information out there as I can to help people kind of connect the dots, because I find there's a huge divide and conquer strategy happening, not just racially, with this, but also through political parties as well. It's just, to me as an observer, it's just been a very interesting, weird, alternate reality. I'm sorry, I have to put these on because looking at the screen, but I think you could probably see my eyes anyways. That is a lie detector, whatever. You fucking liar. Yeah, it took years of recovery for me to see the value of the truth and, people taking me seriously. And it's still important to me. But apparently you can run this through AI now. You need facial movements, all sorts of stuff. You can get a baseline for what I'm talking about, when I'm telling the truth, when I'm unsure, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do the best of my ability with the camera right in my face. Let me start talking. So when people say pick a side, okay, like pick a political party, I'm kind of like, what are you, 5? Like, are you 5 years old? Are you old enough to drive? Are you old enough to be on this planet, to buy liquor, to do anything, right? Like, are you sure about that? Because I've been helped by people from different races and different political parties. I've met just as many nice white, black, brown, Chinese, Middle Eastern people in the NDP as I have in the Conservative Party, okay, and in the Liberal Party. I feel that there's a divide and conquer strategy coming through political parties, affecting people and targeting people who are pro-Canada and also pro-helping others. And they don't necessarily have to be pro-Trump or anti-Trump. This is an interesting kind of segue. I don't want to get too much into it, because I find the whole anti-Trump thing a bit of a distraction in comparison to what has been happening and who the power behind the thrones are and what they're doing, right? The whole Trump Elon thing is just a bit of it's almost like a perversion diversion in a way. And I don't even know if they realize how much they're being used in it. I don't want to go there. When I was working in Olivia Chow's office, and it was during her the first time she threw her hat in the ring to run for mayor of Toronto. She was at the Trinity Spadina office in downtown Toronto around Kensington Market. I think it was on Augusta. I'm pretty sure. They were incredibly nice to me. And they were definitely interested in the whole missing and murdered Indigenous woman movement and dealing with it appropriately. This was after I was denied entry into the US. And my ex actually did kind of, tell me a lot about, what was going on the reserves and stuff like that. So, I'd already had a good idea, but I'd had a good idea prior to that as well. When I worked in East Hastings, for example, if I could avoid living in East Hastings back in 2000, I would, right? If I could avoid walking through East Hastings, someone who was, had a tendency towards addiction, someone who had struggled with opiate use, I just didn't want to be there. I wouldn't even take the bus through. I would actually walk from Granville Island all the way down, and I would take the back door, so I'd take backdoor routes to go to the club, the Drake, which was a very nice club. I felt very lucky to work there. I've worked in some clubs that were incredibly grotty. That was a very nice club. They did a very good job. And I really enjoyed working at that club. It was a very safe club. It was a very nice club. So to me, the idea that people got online and killed my replacement, not people who work in the industry, not club owners, not dancers, not clients, a bunch of little fucking retard psycho cowards got online, went to groom my replacement and fucked it up so bad. They got so sadistic and so mentally retarded. And now you're like, know your place, nigger, with me. Excuse the shit out of me. Like, I'm like a little bit more one drop than Rachel Dolezal. I would never assume to take over the NAACP, or that I'm not even blood quantum enough to ever even like assume like that would be cool. But if it's not, you know what I mean? Like I never see myself as that person who can tell you where to go or tell you who you are culturally, because I don't have that experience. And even though I'm olive skinned, I can't change that. I can bleach my hair, which I had to because of what had happened in the hospital. I was given an infection and it was joked about like en masse. It was so sadistic. Why would I want to go back to the club other than, you know, I have no options, right? Excuse me for a second. I'm gonna take a cup of coffee here or a sip of coffee. Why would I want to go back to the club unless I absolutely have no options? I'm being cut off online and I'm being followed, right? And these are not all Sikh. Like I'm really concerned about what happened with that Sikh activist, you know, because I don't see myself as better or worse than. I see myself as someone who could be targeted the same way he was targeted, and I'm super fucking upset about it. Okay. Also, we have civil rights here, which means that they apply to everybody. So going back to working in Olivia Chow's office, I noticed right away that when she threw her hat in the ring, people were, she was up in the polls. Like she was up in the polls. She was going to win the first election, not the most recent election, the first election. And I was working with a team. I was canvassing. I was volunteering. I'm on ODSP. I've worked in market research. I've worked in promoting clubs. I've worked in clubs. So, you know, obviously I have. And I found I had to hold my team back and I had to sit down and have a talk with them because I'm watching John Tory's canvassers and I'm watching the Liberal Party canvassers and I'm watching everyone else just knock on the door. Oh, are you at dinner? Here's a flyer, blah, blah. Instead, mine were like literally pushing to the point where they were fucking killing it. And I don't mean killing it in a good way. I mean, they were killing her chances. And I sat down with them at one point. Excuse me, I'm gonna have my coffee here. I sat down with them at one point. I'm sorry, my place is a mess. And I put the graph on the screen of where she was at the beginning of the campaign for running for mayor for Toronto, and where she was, like, I'd say probably like around July or August, you know. Somehow she had plummeted in popularity to the bottom of the polls. It was shocking. And she had worked so hard. I was so fucking upset. I couldn't even believe it. So I asked my team, I said, you guys, like, what did Gandhi say about, you know, learn from a politician? When you throw dirt, all you do is lose ground. These are children who are like, they have a university education. They can make more than minimum wage. I struggle to make minimum wage. I'm being forced back into horse school, probably by people who are going through the NDP. This is a pedophile ring, a sextortion ring going through the NDP, going through the Liberal Party, and going through the Conservative Party as well. Okay, so this is not party specific. This is why I can't, like I won't. I can't possibly pick a side. I voted Liberal because of Bill Blair. That's why I voted Liberal, and there's a whole history there. So anyways, I said that stuff about Gandhi, you know, when you when you throw dirt, all you do is lose ground. Gandhi doesn't know anything about politics. University educated children. And it became very clear to me that this whole missing and murdered Indigenous women movement had become something that was a threat to certain people within all parties, and especially within the NDP. And that she actually lost as a result of throwing support behind people who share a victimology, including myself. I'm not that Indigenous. I'm probably like one drop as much as like a little bit more than Rachel Dolezal, right? Like that's, but the fact that, you know, people felt that comfortable with making it into an issue because there was so much money to be made, right? Like that was the priority. So it became the primary purpose. And suddenly human rights, civil rights didn't matter. And also, you know, Hollywood money meant more than anything. Back in the day when I was voting Jean Chrétien, these are a lot of white guys that I've been voting for. I put my support behind them, but I do it because what I learned and what I got in return helped me survive, right? Otherwise, you know, a very low level education, emotionally stunted, intellectually disabled human being is surviving these situations, you know? So I'm so grateful, but I'm concerned, you know, like I have some severe concern. I, you know, started to notice that something was amiss when I moved here. A lot of things were amiss. I was going through home invasions. Parts of my journal, again, ended up back in movies, Warner Brother movies, and I was getting attacked in hospital again. Until the attacks got so hot, so bad, I got a COVID lobotomy with a dirty Q-tip. And the joke was that the nurse, who was Indian, had stuck the Q-tip up her yeast-infected crotch prior to this is so very medical, eh? And then shoved it right up my nose till it was bloody. Okay, and then I ended up with an eye infection going to both eyes. Now, apparently that could also be related to the shot, but I couldn't apply for vaccine injury. I was hacked. Shoppers Drug Mart computer was hacked. Things went missing. I had to take like 5 courses of antibiotics. I had to sign a waiver with another doctor at another clinic across the street from the hospital, you know, saying that I was going to try these experimental antibiotics. And he said, yeah, you might live. Like, this was an infection going into my brain. It felt like my brain was slipping around in my, this was a year before the trial. So the Aiden Cobain trial, anyways. I find I have to lock everything up before I leave. I feel like, you know, the whole thing with my criminal injuries support program, my victim services program being cut, has created a huge divide within the Conservative Party that I don't want to get too much into. But I feel like, you know, people like Jim Diodati are kind of in that Olivia Chow position right now, where he's been thrown under the bus by his own, or he's had people dump shit on him and dump me, right? Like he's harboring me. His party is harboring me, right? And I feel bad and I feel guilty. I don't want to be more. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew and take more have people take on more responsibility than is in their job description, right? And the thing I really appreciate about them and all these Italian Catholics is I don't have to explain to them that I've been in recovery. I don't have to explain to them stuff about human trafficking. I don't have to explain anything, right? They just get it. And I don't have to, but the fact that people in the NDP and in not all Ford Nation, but some people who are Doug Ford supporters kind of turned around and went, you can go pick up your criminal injuries in the strip club or the whorehouse. And, you know, being in a program of recovery and being manipulated and having my phone hacked, you know, and part of it was people in the program back in the day. It was a multitude of things. You know, I was also targeted by Chris Corda, who's the head of the Church of Euthanasia. So we had like these extreme right, extreme left, extreme macho, and then extreme trans, all targeting me, all when I was under the age of 18. And it was vicious, and it was sadistic, and it was sick, and I barely survived. I say that I survived because of the music I was listening to, because I was allowed to do anger management. I was allowed to go to a ministry show and just like fucking scream and yell and just lose my shit and body surf. Like I was allowed to go to punk shows at like the Niagara Cafe or the Rivoli. I was allowed to go to the Bovine Sex Club. I know you would think these places would make it worse. These were the places that helped me like decompress and in a way deprogram too as I went. So for me, you know, you never know where you're going to find help from. You never know who's going to help you. That's why I always try to kind of keep an open mind. I don't know what else I have to say on this. Not a lot. I just kind of wanted to put this out there because I don't know if I'm going to survive this. Because if my replacement didn't survive and she was younger than stronger and I'm being forced back into horse school, like I can't get a job, you know, other than no matter how hard I try, right? Like I've got 12 plus years recovery and no matter how hard I try, I can't get the criminal injuries. I can't get startup. I can't sell things. And then I'm in this reactive abuse cycle with a lot of people as well, you know, who really protect perpetrators, who really protect and keep the shit in place and they actually perpetuate it and make it worse. Then I don't really think my chances of living are really that high once I do go back. I probably am going to go back around September. I still have a lot of cellulite to work on. I don't feel like I should go back in the club unless I'm ready to actually work in the club. I'm not going to sit there and waste my fucking time, you know, jerking off with people who could have me dosed. Because I know that's a thing. And I've been threatened with that too. I can make it look like suicide and overdose. And a lot of my friends have died since 2016, just that way, exactly that way. In fact, you know, ironic. What a coincidence. Who the fuck would do that? You know, are we looking for a narcissistic cop? Is it a covert narcissist? Are they white? Are they black? Are they brown? Are they in between? Is it someone in the political party? Who's doing what to whom? It's very difficult. So, you know, even though I have issues with police, I don't feel, you know, and especially after, you know, I heard that George Soros was funding and infiltrating BLM, I got right off of that because I really wanted nothing to do with it. And after watching what happened in the May Day protests in Paris, to me, that was like, yeah, how else are you as like Germany legally going to, you know, attack Paris and level it? So to me, like us getting into a fight to show that, to alleviate our guilt instead of doing the next right thing. Like back in the day, we would go to a punk show or we would go to an industrial show and we would just tear shit up. And then we would talk about doing the next right thing. And I didn't always do it, but that environment was available. That environment was around. That environment was not around the year that she died. That I was looking at the playlist and the top 40 top of the pops. Yeah, this gym doesn't have to fix it, Doug. You got the wrong gym. I don't know what you just because his name is Jim and he's Catholic doesn't mean he's Jimmy Savile. And that's scary to me. But anyways, that just the whole insinuation is fucking scary to me. I'm laughing because it's so fucked up. Okay, let me try and deal with this. I'm looking at the music that year. Okay, and yeah, Lady Gaga was super, super popular that year. And then of course there was the whole joke that she had my face fucked in hospital, right? Like when the COVID Q-tip was bloodied after it was shoved up a girl's crotch, and I was given some kind of Candida auris. Then I'm told to go to the gym. I'm going to the gym. Then I got blocked from going to the gym. So there were East Indians who were willing to pick up, just like the white people were willing to pick up back in the day when my box was being heart-shaped, i.e. I had a colposcopy and it turned into a pap smear, i.e. my cervix was compromised and I was not told. I feel politicians are being separated from this or being shut down and attacked because I believe I was put into a program. I believe it was a form of like horse school / sterilization program, to be completely honest, a forced sterilization, forced sexual exploitation program. I believe it started when I was like in single digits, and it did come through the school system. The first time I went on a Commodore 64, I was frozen. I was completely scared shitless. And I remember getting put out in the hall and reprimanded by a teacher who was later reprimanded for being very inappropriate with students. So that was in grade 4. And I do believe in a victimology. I believe in a look. I believe I share a look. And there are girls older than me who also have this look. With the brown eyes, the brown hair, and kind of olive skin with, you know, almond-shaped eyes. This is actually a look that is being targeted. What else do I have to say? Not a hell of a lot. I believe I was stuck with an RFID minus my consent when I was 13 years old. This may or may not have happened. I don't know. A guy who may have looked like Brandon Lee may have walked into my ballet class. I was doing a special class when I was 13. And I was with a lot of 20-year-olds, and I was probably one of the biggest girls in the room, to be completely honest. I was already about 5'7". I was already like struggling between 135 to 140 pounds. And I didn't dance like a ballerina. I danced like I wanted to kick the shit out of people because I was already having a fight. Okay. And I'd already had some fights under my belt. And he was outside my ballet class when I was leaving. And he said, you know, you're a really good dancer. And I said, thank you. And I ran away. I didn't think anything of it. And I didn't think that he did anything wrong. It didn't qualify to me as a Me Too at all. And for anyone who was around him to get offended or turn this into a fucking vendetta is fucking insane. And if that's the case, people need to fucking stop, because I don't believe that's what he stood for or Brandon Lee stood for. What I see of Shannon Lee, I don't believe that's what she stood for. Okay. And I just feel like you need to fucking cut the shit out. Like, you need to worry about your motherfucking self. Okay. Don't worry about me, because I have nothing to do with it. Okay. Were there some interesting things happening? Yes, there were. In The Crow, absolutely, without a doubt. I thought that was more of a kind gesture. I did not think of that as something that was like a personal attack. After he died, it did become a personal attack. And I was definitely getting stalked by, members of Warner Brothers. People have been kind of pushing me to lose weight. There might be a movie in it. I really don't feel like they wouldn't hire me in my prime, right? Like, they were stealing things out of my diary. They were stealing pictures. Things were going missing from my apartment, and I was being pushed from pillar to post, always on the run from this systemic abuse, always being gaslit, always being hazed, always being fucking attacked, through this like flying monkey, just crazy shit, right? Of fixers who are too sadistic for their own good. Most recently was with Ballerina movie, and that was after I'd been attacked in hospital, and I'd been encouraged to put the cell phone up to my face and start talking, and I did, and that, I guess, what evolved from there was the most recent John Wick. I don't know Chad at all, right? Like, I've never had an interaction with Chad Stahelski, whatever his name is, but I find it interesting again and again that between him and the Wachowskis, stuff like personal stuff of mine ends up in movies, but also I end up getting personally hurt and attacked in weird and disgusting fucking ways and violent ways. And the violence is getting worse, not better. And it's not just falling on me. Other people are getting hurt as well. And people who are well-meaning, who try to talk to you or talk about it or do the next right thing, have to worry about their safety and the safety of their loved ones. I'm making this because I don't know that I'm going to survive this, and eventually I have to go back to work because I'm on ODSP. I have reduced rent, but I don't live in a subsidized rental. I was on the TCHC housing list. I've been on Niagara House, like 20 years ago. I went on TCHC. I was in Ottawa. I was like 2 months away when I got kicked out of the shelter because I got into a fight with a trans man who was running around raping people. He was dosing women. He was threatening to kill them, make it look like suicide or an overdose, just like people in Toronto. Right, go figure. And then he was raping people when they were unconscious. Again, he was targeting Native girl, like non-blood quantum. So it's a look, like it's a definite look. And this is not an attack on trans people. I'm all for gender affirming surgery or gender affirming care. Okay, I can't even begin to tell you how I'm liberal to a fault. I tolerate bullshit to a fault. This is something people have told me. This is something sponsors have told me. And so for you guys to turn around into, I'm such a Bible thumper and a killjoy, when I'm pro-life and pro-choice, because I think you should fund both services, because that's what a civilized fucking society does. You assume that there is choices to be made because choices are options. Choices are available instead of attacking people and turning it to this or that. I don't know Courtney Love. And so I don't know what her part in this is. I know that it's been scary. It's been entirely scary since that whole heart-shaped box thing. I really had no idea that I was being targeted or why I was being targeted, but I know that happened. And I know there isn't really much I can say about it other than it fucking hurt me. And I'm really not allowed to say anything, which is, it's a double standard in itself. When like the Chuck D types are coming up into my face, like, know your fucking place, nigga. It's like, motherfucking bitch, where the fuck were you? Yeah, you're gonna come tear down my town to show what a man you are and make me homeless? Like, fuck you, get away from me. That's how I feel. I'm kind of done because I'm kind of cranky and I'm gonna go finish my coffee and I'm gonna go for a run. But I just wanted to do that because, yeah, I really don't know how long I have, and I don't know where this is going. And, it's that whole am I next kind of shit. Well, I'm not going to live forever. The fact that I lived this long is like it's like a grotesque miracle. It's like God's joke on fucking humanity. But at the same time, I'm not going to take that for granted. So I'm going to go enjoy life. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.